Då får jag be samtliga att inta sina platser.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. In a couple of minutes, I will ask all of you to stand up when the Royal Majesty's President Minister will enter the room. Initially, there will be a brief photo session. Please remain standing until the Royal Majesties, the Speaker and the President have taken their seats. After the speech, about 20 minutes, the Speaker will pass the word to questions from the MPs. When the Speaker leaves the room together with the President and the Royal Majesties and the Finnish delegation, I would like to ask you to remain seated for a couple of minutes. Finally, I would like to ask you to turn off the volume on your mobile phones, and this will be sent on the Parliament's web TV and on SVT Forum.
Då får jag be samtliga att...
I would like to ask you to rise.
Eders Majestät.
Your Majesties, the President of the Republic, members of the Swedish Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, warmly welcome to the Swedish Riksdag. The Swedish and the Finnish paths during the centuries have sometimes been the same times. They have diverged, and the unique relationship has consisted, has developed, has become stronger over the years between our countries, our parliaments, and people. We have close bonds, close cooperation. We have joint values and joint interests. When Runeberg wrote about how the Finnish people like the dark forest and the summer light, this is something which is recognizable by us Swedes. The history of Sweden and Finland has been bonded together and have been affected by the development around the Baltic Sea. Our countries are now managing separately but in close dialogue their applications for membership in NATO. As we noted in this parliamentary debate yesterday, this was a necessary measure considering Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine, Russian actions which can violate rule-based global order. Our joint Finnish-Swedish roots go well back, and the bonds between our countries is a strong trunk which bears a lot of branches of cooperation and collaboration. Really, in the times like this, the relationships and the cooperations as ours, so that we once again, in the words of Rosenberg, the land of our fathers, land of the future, be free, be happy, be safe. Having said this, I pass the word to the President of the Republic, Sauli Niinistö, please. Thank you. Thank you. Your Majesties, Mr. Speaker of the Riksdag, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to address you here in the parliamentary building today. Sweden and Finland are taking historical steps together. We will inform officially soon in Brussels that we're prepared to start the accession agreement to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Sweden and Finnish membership in NATO will improve both our own safety but also the safety of the entire alliance. Our membership would strengthen a responsible, strong and stable Nordic region in the northern part of NATO. We're taking these historical steps in the shadow of a brutal war. In December of last year marked the beginning of a chain of events which revolutionized our security political environment. This forced us to review our security policy, Russia's demands to stop the enlargement of NATO. The purpose of this was to decrease our freedom of choice and our sovereignty. This puts us in a new position. A Russian major offensive against Ukraine made it clear that Russia once again is prepared to use its armed purposes in adjacent areas in order to reach its target. The sum of these factors showed that our traditional positioning was untenable. The transatlantic cooperation has been strong, has been united in its support to Ukraine and its response to Russia. The bravery of the Ukrainian people have touched us deeply. The suffering of the civil population have shaken us. We are supporting Ukraine, which is defending its independence and freedom. We are helping the people who are escaping the horrors of war. People guilty of war crimes must be held responsible for their actions. Prior to the Russian invasion, it was almost impossible to envision that a major war could become a reality in Europe in 2020s. A lot of people considered that the memories of the war generations were part of history, and we believed that peace was something which was self-evident. On the 24th of February, the peace was violated. At the same time, our trust in the traditional ways of guaranteeing our security was violated, and managing our relationship with Russia. Our old ways no longer correspond to the new situation. Even though our security policy choice has been changed, the goals for Finnish foreign policy and security policy are not changed. Apart from guaranteeing security in Finland, we want to strengthen the multilateral cooperation with global responsibility in order to create peace. Our solution does not change the geography. Even in the future, Finland wants to manage all the practical issues created by our common body, and this will be done in a professional way. Security is not a zero-sum game. The Finns who look beyond the Russian border is the same Finn as before. Earlier in the history of the world, it said that it was much wiser to act than to have just. There's always a risk in action, but the risks are much larger if no action is taken. This was said by Harriet S. Truman in his address to the Congress in March 1948. Truman addressed the Congress talking about the role of the USA supporting freedom and security in Europe. The idea of NATO has already been born. The political leadership in Sweden and in Finland have now assessed that the risks of not acting are larger than the risks of action. Months of intensive work has resulted in uniform decisions. We share the same security environment. Our interests are similar, and our security policy for a long time has been moving in the same direction. I value highly that we continue walking hand in hand, even when it comes to this very important decision. We have now a joint challenge. Statements from Turkey in the last day have quickly become harsher, and but I am certain with the help of constructive discussions, will resolve the situation. As a part of NATO ascension for Finland, Sweden, we have our close partners, Denmark, Norway, Iceland. The Nordic countries are very strong in a lot of different areas, constitute a very strong Northern European quintet, even as a part of NATO. Apart from democracy and welfare, security will become a much clearer pillar of our joint Nordic model. Even our close cooperation with the Baltic countries will receive new security dimensions. Our membership in NATO gives depth to the defense of our countries and the entire Northern Europe. At the same time, the security and the stability in the entire Baltic area will be improved. In a situation of crisis, we can trust the support of our neighbors, solidarity, and working supply lines. Ladies and gentlemen, responsibility, strength, and stable. These are the words which describe our Nordic model. The Nordic countries have always taken their responsibility. Sweden and Finland, being a part of the European Union, they have contributed strongly to the stability and the welfare in the Union, supporting our partners in difficult times. As a part of the international community, we're pioneers when it comes to solving global challenges such as climate change, for example.
The Baltic area, our contribution to security remains strong. As NATO members, our foremost task remains securing our own territory, but at the same time we are determined to take responsibility for the security of our allies. Our contribution to the Euro-Atlantic security will be strengthened. The Nordic countries are strong in every sense of the word. Our military strength is at the highest European level, and our skills and expertise supplement one another. The barrier to taking military action against us is already very high. But strength does not come solely from power. It also requires tenacity and determination, and that's something we're known for in the Nordic region. We are among the leading countries of the world in technical development. Our economies are strong and resilient against crises. Our freedom of speech is strong, and our citizen has been equipped with tools to be able to identify and counter various forms of disinformation. We take care of our citizens. Our stability is based on a strong democracy. In a time where democracy is deteriorating globally, the Nordic countries stand out. In the annual Democracy Index in 2021, 5 of the 6 top nations, Nordic countries. And finally, a strong democracy is the best guarantee for security. We have to safeguard our democracy in the future as well. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we have made our decision, the power is temporarily transferred to NATO and their current member state. We hope that all member states will give us their strong approval and support. We are looking forward to signing the accession treaties as soon as possible, and subsequently we are hoping for quick ratification in our national parliaments. Together with Prime Minister Andersson and each of us in our own way have over the past few weeks been involved in discussions with the allied countries in order to ensure the support for our membership. Our membership has widespread support among the NATO countries. Our strong defenses and our socially and politically stable countries are seen as a reinforcement of the alliance. We have also witnessed widespread support for the period that the accession process will take. The support of the allies is important, and we're very grateful for that. At the same time, I would like to stress that the foremost security aspect in this situation as well remains our strong defenses and our stable societies. Our strong, stable societies will probably hold out. My ladies and gentlemen, finally I would like to end by thanking Prime Minister Andersson for her intense work and a very productive exchange of ideas over the past few months. Sweden and Finland have hundreds of years of shared history. We're united by geography, values, language and culture. Our partnership has always been based on trust, but the contact between our governments have probably never been as close as it is now. We have spoken to one another almost every week. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the ministers, members of parliament and civil servants who have traveled down this journey together with a colleague from their neighboring country. I am firmly convinced that this close contact will remain and will grow even stronger. The value and the limitless potential that these contacts over the past few months have shown how valuable it can be. Thank you.
Varmt tack.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Now the idea is that we will open up for some of our MPs to ask questions of the President. They have been submitted in advance, and I will ask them in the order of the size of the party. We have very little time, so we'll take 2 questions at a time, and ask you to keep them short. Niklas Karlsson, Social Democrats. Thank you, Your Majesties. The President of the Republic. Finland has for a long time had unique contact and access to leadership in Kremlin. And the President, yourself, have regularly both visited President Putin and received him in Finland. Now, after the 24th of February, I'd like to ask the President, how does he see the opportunity for having any kind of meaningful dialogue with Putin in the future? Hans Wallmark, the Moderate Party. Your Majesties, President of the Republic, it's fortuitous that the Republic comes to the Kingdom of Sweden on the Norwegian National Day with a Danish ambassador in the room. Just like Mr. President underlined, a NATO membership by Sweden and Finland is also a way of securing the Nordic region. But it also creates conditions, as the President stressed in his speech, to get closer ties with our nearest neighbors in the Baltic states. So this is a way of strengthening the Nordic region and the Baltic states, not only in terms of security policy, but we're hoping also that we can improve our relations with our Baltic friends, both in terms of politics and economy and security. Yes, I note that I've learned a little bit of the Skåne dialect. Yes, when I spoke to President Putin last Saturday, I was somewhat surprised over the fact that he was very cool, and I was expecting something else. But I have to ask what that means, if a Russian is cool. And of course, when the security matters are up for debate, you have to be very cautious. And how to move forward? Like I said, there are different everyday things that we have to manage, such as maritime transport in the Finnish Bay, where there is very little room and there is a lot of traffic, and we have to keep that in mind. And now, temporarily, we have been collaborating very well. Nothing has happened there, and that is something that we must be able to guarantee, that we can continue these talks with Russia to manage these everyday things that are, of course, in the interest of both our countries. Otherwise, it is, of course, clear that our relationship with Russia has changed, and it is somewhat difficult to see yourself at the same table as President Putin. As regard the second question, thank you. I did not understand that we had such a peculiar combination here today from the Nordic countries. Yeah. All of us have traveled a lot, seen many countries, and as always, when people ask where you're from, people would be happy to give you their opinion. Oh, the Nordic countries, they're so lovely. They don't tell me particularly that Finland is nice. No, they combined immediately all the Nordic countries into one region. And this is something that I would say something, it's a very positive brand that we have. I think that we can add to that now better security, and security that serves all of Europe and hopefully the world, because I see that as we become members of NATO, we are not going to need to defend ourselves with arms solely. It is also a path to building more peace, and that's something that works well with the Nordic tradition, and also something that I would love to see the Nordic countries working together on, that we do something like that. Yep. Thank you. We have, sorry, and I have the same opinion, and in particular Sweden is very important in terms of the defense of the Baltic, because Sweden provides a lot of assistance to the defense forces in the Baltic countries, and Finland as well. Thank you. Jimmy Åkesson, Sweden Democrats. Your Majesties, Mr. President of the Republic, and thank you, Speaker, for ceding the floor to me. I would also like to thank you for an inspiring and very important speech on this historic week for our countries. For about 20 years now, the Finnish Defence Force has consistently been given increases in the budget up to 2.5% of the GDP. In Sweden, the Defence Force for large parts of this period has been as low as 1% of GDP, and it takes time to build defence capabilities. And I'd like to ask Mr. President what advantages it means for Finland that they, for quite a few years now, have a higher level of financing of the defense. What is the basic explanation why you have a long-term perspective in your defense policy during the years that Sweden was suffering from a lack of funding there? Thank you. Kerstin Lundgren of the Centre Party. Thank you, Your Majesties, Mr. President of the Republic. First of all, thank you so much for being here in Sweden and in our parliament today. In these very crucial days for our security policy, the presence of a Finnish president in Swedish parliament, yet another proof of Sweden's and Finland's unique ties to each other, but also an example of how we stand united side by side, acting jointly in our NATO membership. I would like to ask Mr. President, what can we learn from the other Nordic neighbors and the Baltic neighbors who are already members of NATO? What can they teach us? Thank you. Thank you. So how has Finland managed their long-term financing of their defense? Yes. Finland has a very strong defense, and that is perhaps solely because of funding and money, but the fact that we have a conscript army, which means that we have more troops, men and women, if we call in our reservists to serve, than Germany, who is a far larger country than we are. And if we look at that, we have to remind ourselves that in Finland we don't have a professional army. We have conscripts, 20,000 every year. But who also call in every year 20,000 to do their service. And we have not calculated how much that cost society, that young people are away from the labor market or from their studies. You know, to take their studies will take 1 year longer. It's very difficult to calculate that in terms of monetary value. But Finland argued the fact that we decided to buy F-35 fighter jets means that we are above 2% of our GDP. That's one of the reasons. And I do not want to refer to what President Trump said, but he is correct in one way, and all the presidents of the United States have complained of the fact that the European countries are not taking their share of responsibility, their full share. And I'm saying that there has been changes now, say in Germany, and after that NATO will be strengthened, and I'm also sure that that transatlantic bond will be strengthened as well, because if we can trust that we do what we have agreed, that often helps. Okay, and then it's an honor for me to have this opportunity to meet with you and speak before you here. Sorry. Kerstin Lundgren, what was the question? The question concerned how we can, or what we can learn from our neighboring countries who are already members. Yes, that's right, yeah. Yes, of course, I touched upon that I've spoken to the Norwegian Prime Minister frequently, Jonas Støre, because Norway has been a NATO member now for from the start, and Norway has been able to manage these everyday tasks that I touched upon concerning Russia, but at the same time they are very good NATO members, and I think that we could and we should listen to their experience. And in Denmark as well, they have extensive experience of their membership in NATO, and in particular Sweden and Norway. That southern dimension is very important. And we have seen collaboration between three countries, Norway, Denmark and Sweden, concerning the southern Scandinavian security, but also tripartite partnerships between Norway, Sweden and Finland concerning the north of the Nordic region. And I think we should continue those partnerships because that helps NATO as well. Thank you. We'll wrap it up with a short question from Håkan Svenneling, the Left Party. Your Majesties, Mr. President of the Republic, I would like to praise the President, because myself and to many other Swedes it has become clear what an important role an elected leader of a country can play in uncertain times. Even though I do not agree with everything, I would have to say that the President has been a great leader for the Finnish people, so thank you for your contributions there. Then to my question, recently we've heard fairly harsh statements from the President of Turkey, and I know that you had a phone conversation with President Erdogan, and in connection with the meeting the Turkish State Department talked about lifting the arms embargo that Sweden and Finland have concerning Turkey. What is your opinion of Erdogan's statements, and then did he present any demands when you spoke to him on the phone? Yes, it has been somewhat surprising these last few days. I have publicly already said that I had a phone conversation with President Erdogan for about a month ago, and he brought up that himself, that you are heading to NATO, and told me that Turkey sees it as favorable. But in the last week now, he said not favorable. And I believe as many people have heard before, that there are no problems, but now they have cropped up, and that means that we must continue our discussions. I'm optimistic. Then we say thank you to you, Mr. President, for answering some of our parliamentary members' questions. And on that note, we end this meeting, and we will exit shortly. Thank you so much. So then we'll move forward together. Yes, very good.